Okay, so we're in the middle of a trial. We started back at planting and then did some more stuff at side dress with nitrogen rates. So we got population up and down on the corn and nitrogen rates up and down accordingly. I'm going to use the loads feature in climate to keep track of everything. I can also use region reports. I kind of like loads because it gives me a nice report when I'm done. So I'm going to be working through here today. Maybe not get it all today, get some of it tomorrow, and see how things turn out on the bushels and the dollars. I'm about through 2 planter passes on the west repetition of this trial. So I did a block here and I did a block over here to the east, so I repeated it twice, and there was 35,000 seeds per acre planted there, only 26 here. And then I also have reps of 38,000 and 29,000, so I'm just going about 10% up and down from my field rate of 32,000. So up to 35 and up to 38, down to 29 and down to 26. Nitrogen changing 20 pounds with each population change. So day 2 out in this trial, doing the second repetition of everything now. So I'll have it all wrapped up soon, using the loads here on FieldView on my iPad to sort it all out. A few things I've noticed. So the 26,000 planted population and the 29, the combine likes that, just harvests really easy. That's to be expected. The 38,000, a little more noticeable. I'm in the 35 now. You don't see it as much. The 38,000 compared to the 26, I'm getting a lot more trash and stuff in. And the yields are pretty close on the first rep, so I'm getting through the second rep now, and we can look at some stuff there. I can pull up here. If I bring up my loads here, you can see, so the west reps, so I named them by population and what side they were. I had a rep on the west and I had a rep on the east, so that all figured out. So you can see the 38 and 35 were the best yield, but well, actually 29,000 was right in the middle of the 35 and 38. 26 was off some, but there's also going to be less seed expense and 20 pounds of nitrogen with each step in the population. So this year, that means 20 pounds was $20 this year. It was probably like $8 last year, but $20 this year. So 2 steps down from my average of 32,000. So 32 to 29 to 26, it's $40 less nitrogen. So that really adds up. We'll figure in the price of the corn and seed and all that stuff later, but already seeing some interesting things while I'm here in the field, top of mind, in the middle of the trial. I can pull it up right here on the iPad on FieldView, and there it is. Also, what's nice about having these field-sized trials, and I've got them all handy there in the iPad, I can pick stuff out now or use region reports later, is I'm just going through a normal corn harvest, jumping on the go, not stopping, weighing, all that kind of stuff, just doing this at field scale, normal operation, still get all the data sorted out. Just an initial observation here in the cab, doing some math in my head. So this is waxy corn, so I get a premium for it. So I'm kind of looking at January delivery price. I can get about $7.60 for it. And it looks like in both reps, the 26,000 population did fall off on yield. It's about 10 bushels short of the best, but you got a little over $40 worth of nitrogen there. I don't know what my seed cost is off the top of my head. I'll have to look that back up when I get back to the shop. But so $7.60, that's going to be 5 to 6 bushel of corn. So that's half of that 10 bushels already. Then there's going to be seed cost. I don't think it's going to make it up all of it, even though it's 10 bushel less. It's maybe not going to be that far off on the total return. I'll sort all that out. So I'm just about done with actually harvesting the trial. One more pass and we'll be through all the trial area, and kind of make some conclusions here in the cab, but I will go back and crunch the numbers a little harder when I can sit down in front of the computer in the office, see how this all shook out. Something else I put in for myself as a reminder, not only the legend on the map, but we can go, I made each of these pins at planting. So I know this is the 29,000 pass, that's the 35, that is the 26, and that's the 38. So that's just something that's easy to do, and I made those seasonal field pins, so when this season's over, they'll just go away. I don't have to go delete them all. Actually, the difference in nitrogen cost from what I put on the 26,000 planted to the 38,000 seeds per acre, the nitrogen alone might make up the yield difference. So that'd be interesting to hash out, see what happens. Now, this year, nitrogen, I'm using $1 because that's a round number. I think it was more like $1.08 or $1.10 per pound of applied nitrogen. You go back to 21, I think we paid like 42 cents, something like that. I know my total bill in 2021 for nitrogen was like $90,000. 2022, we maintained our nitrogen rates. We cut back on some other things in certain places around the farm. $90,000 paid for in 2021. My bill this year was $212,000. Big difference. So now if we want to pull up the loads map, so see I got all these different colors for loads. There's my pen for the populations I planted. And if you want to look at the legend on the bottom right, so see like the top one says 32 east. In my head, that's 32,000 planted population. The east rep, because I had an east rep and a west rep, and it's the east side of that because I had 32 on either side. So I had the four other populations, a buffer of 32 in between, and then of course 32 in the rest of the field on either side. That'll make sense to me anyway in my head. But then if you go up and press this spreadsheet looking thing in the top right, so you get a nice list of all your loads. So I can look at the east and see the 32,000 made 205, 29,000 population made 202, 38 was 210, 35 was 207, and the 26 was the lowest at 197, but we got to figure some costs in here. And then the same thing on the bottom, then just load one is like the rest of the field. So that's a nice way to look at it in loads, but you can also do region reports, and you can hit this create PDF. If you want to print this off or email it to somebody, you can do a lot of that with the different reports in here, and you can just have that handy should you want that. So now we can look at yield map. You can see I got the reps up there. Again, with the pins will tell me the population. We can make a region report. I actually like to, just because it looks a little cleaner to me, go back to planting and hybrid when I do some of this stuff, and let's make a region report by selecting passes. So I can just select that planter pass. You can do that with any other pass once you've done harvest in the field. So it takes a minute for it to pop up here. Let's let it think about it here. It's gonna think. There, and see when you bring up the region report, it breaks it down into those two hybrids. So we can actually see the one hybrid was 2 bushels better, and then even will break it down by soil type, population, whatever you want to see. You can click and look deeper, so you can see that hybrid by soil type, population, whatever test you want to run, and it'll do it. And of course, you can create a PDF there. So let's go ahead, let's look at all the numbers and see how they hash out. And hey, if you got a lot of loads going on and you're confused on your colors, just tap your legend here, and the one you're looking for will flash. For simplicity of the video, I combined the yields of the two hybrids in each pass, and the seed cost column, that is the average between the two. So they averaged $231.50 a bag, and then we adjust that for a population. 80,000 seeds in a bag, so 32,000. There's 2.5 acres per bag. So the left column is the population and whether it was in the east or the west repetition, and I got the two buffers of the field average 32,000 in the middle. Next column is the yield for each of those planter passes after the combine went through. Then we talked about in January I could sell this waxy corn for $7.60, so yield times 760 is the gross. My seed cost per acre at the planted population. Nitrogen cost figured at pretty much $1 a pound, or it is figured at $1 a pound just for easy math, even though it might have been a few pennies more. And then the net is just the gross minus the seed cost minus the nitrogen cost, and we see who wins and who loses. So on the east side, the 3,000 lower than average population won, and number 2 was actually the 26,000 population with the low in rate. My field average came in third and fourth place. So we had the field average came in right in the middle. And actually 38,000 with the expensive nitrogen came out ahead of the 35,000. So that was the East. Now you want to look at the West. Same thing. 35 actually won, but you might see, I'll highlight it here, there is an asterisk, so that's where I had that row cleaner bust, and I had a whole row, and yes, it was there at harvest. There wasn't one plant sitting up in it or grown at all when I was out there. So I took the yield I got and divided that by 23 rows because there's only 23 rows harvestable, and took that average yield, times it by 24 to come up with the 223. So we'll pretend that row was there, and that actually makes that the top net on that west pass there on the west side. So number 2 was 29. So 29 came in 1 and 2 if you look at the east and west. And then kind of there in the middle-ish again was the 32 at number 3 and 5. 26 ranked 4 instead of 2 on the west side. And 38 was last. So we can see that raising the seed rate all the way up and the in rate all the way up wasn't the best either time. Kind of a flip-flop. One below the field average, one on the east, and one above 32,000 average on the west one. So that was kind of interesting, but that's kind of why we do these things more than once, and I've done this kind of thing over several years. One thing I have learned is it seems like we try to keep cutting our nitrogen rates, and nitrogen never really seems to be the limiting factor on yield. You can see the yields aren't crazy far apart, especially on the east side there. There's a little more of a spread on the west side, but I think these things are interesting, and FieldView is a good way to start sorting it out. It certainly makes things easy over the whole season, especially, maybe I did something at planting and then, it's all in there recorded. I don't necessarily have to recall it because it's all in there. I can pull it up anytime I'm out in the field or anywhere else for that matter. But those are the results I got. Questions or observations, leave me a comment and we can talk about it. So for wondering, see these reps were pretty close together. If you look on the right, those different colored strips are my planting population. Why was the west a little better? Could be because it gets down into, we got a soil type map in FieldView here. So that red area where the cross is, all this red stuff is historically some of the best ground on our whole farm runs down through there. And you can see those west reps where those pins are at cross down into there, so maybe that was a little better. It's a little more in there too. We can actually switch over, go to organic matter, so it gets into the better organic matter in the field, but maybe also the yeast got into maybe a little average better. But soil type might have played into the differences between east and west. Just thought that was interesting. Okay, just for me to geek out a little bit, I went back to, let's go with our 2021 nitrogen cost, because hopefully 2022 was an aberration, although at the moment it's looking like we're going to have those kind of prices from this year go into 23. So if we use 42 cents a pound instead of $1 a pound, you can see our end cost drops quite a bit. But did it change the rank, everything else being the same? So on the top, we changed our 32,000 was number 1. 29,000 became number 2 instead of number 1. 26,000 dropped to 4th place. The 35,000 went stayed at 6th. 38 stayed at 5th, and the other 32,000 flipped from 3rd to 4th. On the bottom, let's see, we start at the top column of the bottom set. The lowest population dropped. Second lowest population stayed the same. So did the field average for 1 rep. It changed 1 position, went up from 5 to 4. 35,000 still won, and 38,000 still lost. So I just thought I'd throw that in there. I thought that was kind of interesting. Go back to kind of a more normalized end cost.